My father had a secret that made my mother pregnant every year, and each time she gave birth to a round lump of flesh. The villagers called it living jade. They said it was transformed from a female infant. Eating living jade could prolong life and keep one young forever. My mother lay on the bed, her belly swollen beyond her face, a vacant, silly smile on her lips. The midwife and I rushed to prepare hot water and fetch towels, but my father stood to the side, pointing at my mother and yelling, "Worthless woman, push, push hard, get me a son." He even squeezed my mother's belly forcefully, slapping it several times. Half an hour later, my mother gave birth to another lump of flesh, about the size of a small watermelon. The strange thing was, the lump clearly showed facial features, protruding and receding nose, eyes, and mouth. The flesh was translucent. One could clearly see a small, bright red heart beating steadily inside. My father's eyes widened in a stare. He muttered curses, clutching the lump tightly as he ran out to the yard. "Blind, utterly blind," he shrieked, throwing the lump to the ground with all his might. Thud, a giant splash of blood splattered across the earth. My father was still not satisfied, taking a hoe and hacking at the lump until it was shattered. "Dale, Dale," my father called me in a shrill voice. "Dale is my name." He hoped I would grow up strong, capable of farm work. I staggered out to the yard. "Clean this mess up. Bury it under the tree," my father commanded, pointing at the fragments of flesh. My mind blank like a machine, I carried a large iron basin. My mother was bought. The first time she gave birth to me, just because I was a girl, my father beat her all night. After that, as if possessed, my mother gave birth to 4 more girls, one after another. My father, enraged, laid hands on all of them, treating my mother like an enemy. According to him, what's the use of giving birth to useless things? Just a waste of my rice. Useless things was how they referred to girls in the village. My father didn't give up, even spending money to buy a secret remedy. A remedy to have a son. The result? After my mother drank it, she became pregnant every year, but strangely, each time she only gave birth to a lump of flesh. The villagers laughed uproariously, gossiping. "These lumps of flesh are all transformed from baby girls. The Zhao family is surely destined to die out in this life and the next." My father could only vent his anger on my mother. She was beaten to the point of madness. And those lumps of flesh shared the same fate as those baby girls. They were all buried under the tree. Weren't these actually my younger sisters? Right in front of my house, under the old pagoda tree, I swung the hoe, digging a large hole. My father said, pagoda tree, split it, and it reads ghost in the wood. Burying remains here will prevent the children and the lumps of flesh from reincarnating. Don't even dream of being reborn." Just then, before I dug too deep, pale white bones were exposed. My eyes burned, and I poured all the minced flesh from the large basin into the pit. Just then, my uncle was walking from afar. Originally, he was in a good mood, puffing on his pipe and humming. But when he saw this scene, his face suddenly changed. He rushed over, kicking me hard. "Who told you to bury these damn girls, you wasteful wretch?" Seeing him about to kick me again, I backed away in fear. "It's my father, I yelled. My uncle stomped his foot angrily and ran into my house. I carried the large, blood-filled basin, not understanding what was happening, and hurried after him. The midwife was gone now, only my father sat alone in the yard. At first glance, he looked ferocious, eating raw pig kidneys piece by piece. Occasionally, he would grab a handful of goji berries, stuffing his mouth and chewing voraciously. Seeing my uncle, my father seemed to find a confidant, pulling him closer to lament, "Brother, ever since my wife drank that secret medicine, she's like a cat in heat. Even when pregnant, she's constantly demanding every day, draining all my energy. It's strange, whenever I'm tired and don't give it to her, her belly just won't grow bigger." My uncle clicked his tongue. "You mean if you don't tend to her, the child in her belly won't develop?" "Child? She just birthed another lump of flesh, that useless thing." My father gnashed his teeth and rushed into the room. Immediately, my mother's pathetic screams, in her deranged state, echoed. My uncle quickly pulled my father away. Watching this scene, I hated my father intensely. Unable to restrain myself, I yelled at him, "What does boy or girl have to do with my mother? TV says it's all because of the man. You're the useless one." My father looked like he wanted to kill me, chasing me around the yard. "Stop it, fatty too." My uncle stopped my father again. I have something important to discuss. You can beat this unruly girl later when you have time. Fatty too, do you know what those lumps of flesh actually are? They're treasures worth a lot of money. My uncle told a story. In a neighboring village, a young wife also used this secret method, and she too gave birth to a round lump of flesh. At first, the family cried hysterically, but unexpectedly, when the rumor spread, a wealthy merchant rushed to them. According to him, this lump of flesh was called living jade. This item was 100 times more nourishing than a placenta or umbilical cord, and if steeped in wine and consumed long-term, it could even prolong life and preserve youth. My father, hearing this, only cared about one thing: this living jade. It sells for money. My uncle held up 2 fingers. My father, 2 million, that much? My uncle snapped, you're so petty, 20 million. My father's eyes bugged out like a cow's. Then he punched his chest and slapped himself. My family also had living jade, and I buried it. My uncle comforted him with a few words, then narrowed his cunning eyes. Fatty too, it's not too late now that you know. Can't your wife still give birth? Go encourage her. Don't let her rest. Start working tonight. My father grimaced. Oh brother, she's willing, but I can't do it. I'm too weak, I need to recuperate. My uncle scoffed. You fool, aren't I here? And call up all the other bachelors in the village. My father flinched. My uncle whistled. Why still consider her your wife? She's just your plot of land. Hire people to sow the seeds and just harvest when the season comes. You'll have money then? My uncle made a gesture of counting money. Can't you just buy a new wife? My father suddenly understood, grinning broadly. His yellow teeth, filled with chewed goji berries, were utterly disgusting. Then he turned to me and cursed, Dale, go chop firewood. You lazy good-for-nothing, all you know is eating. The villagers all went up the back mountain to chop firewood. Since there was plenty of wood, just chopping loosely at the foot of the mountain was enough. But I went deep inside alone. Here, there was an abandoned earth shrine, and beneath it, a secret cellar. I crept inside. This place was dark and damp, but this cellar was my little home, without my father's presence, belonging only to me. Course, a few days ago, this place welcomed another guest. It was a lame old woman I happened to meet while chopping firewood. She was the village witch. Everyone called her Grandma 3. She was the one who sold the secret remedy to my father. At that time, she was limping deep into the forest, gathering herbs and catching venomous insects. When I saw her, I gnashed my teeth, filled with bitter hatred. It's this evil woman. If it weren't for her, why would my mother give birth to lumps of flesh? So I struck her on the head with a stick. Then, silently, I carried her to this cellar, cut the tendons in her hands and feet, and threw her into a large earthenware jar. That feeling was absolutely wonderful. I thought I would be terrified. After all, this wasn't killing livestock but laying hands on a human. But as soon as I acted, a surge of pleasure satisfied me to the extreme. So, amidst her pathetic screams, I sang a mountain song and continued my work. Back to the present, I turned on my flashlight in the cellar and shone it straight at the earthenware jar. Grandma 3's head slumped, half dead in a coma. I took out a pair of needle-nose pliers, suddenly reaching out and clamping them tightly onto Grandma 3's nose. In a flash, nosebleed spurted out, dripping onto the ground. Grandma 3's face contorted in pain, and she immediately woke up. Recognizing me, she pleaded for her life, terrified. I ignored her, flopping down next to the jar, and pulled out a pouch of pipe tobacco I'd stolen from my father. The stinking men in the village, they always make women and girls work, while they sit on their beds puffing away. Is this stuff really so good? I took a puff. Men can smoke it, why can't I? At this moment, Grandma 3 continued to beg. Good girl, spare me. Grandma 3 will give you whatever you want. Please spare this old woman's life. I asked coldly. I have one question for you. You patted your chest and guaranteed my father that drinking the secret remedy would result in a son, didn't you? Why are they lumps of flesh? I squeezed her bloody nose harder. Grandma 3 shrieked in pain, then she completely broke down, confessing like a flowing river. I didn't lie to your father. At that time, I claimed to have successfully formulated this secret remedy. I used my golden dog as an experiment, giving the female dog this medicine, and she gave birth to a whole litter of males. Conversely, the male dog that accidentally got some of the medicine also became fertile and expelled lumps of flesh. Grandma 3 trembled, looking at me. Continue. I thought if it worked on dogs, it would work on humans too. Who knew that dogs and humans have different physiques, so the drug's effects changed like that? I pondered. So, according to you, if a man drinks this medicine, he can also give birth to a live embryo? Grandma 3 thought for a moment, then nodded decisively. No need to hear more. I took my jungle knife, using the blunt side of the blade to strike her neck twice. Don't forget, my name is Dale. Her eyes rolled back and she immediately fainted. When I carried the firewood home, I found guests had arrived. All the stinking men in the village were sitting in the living room, drinking tea and chatting. The conversation revolved around my mother. Occasionally, someone would bare their teeth in a sinister smile. In addition, my 2 close friends also came, led by their fathers. However, at this moment, they were squatting in the yard, pouring hot water and plucking goose feathers. The goose had just been slaughtered. I put down the firewood and hurried to help. The 3 of us gathered around the large iron basin. These 2 friends, one named Jade, her name's meaning was clear. The other, Roxy, because in her father's eyes she was no different from a guard dog. Moreover, Roxy always wore split-crotch pants. At this moment, she was squatting opposite me. If she just lifted her head a little, one could see right into her crotch. That crotch was awfully soiled, from other people always touching it with dirty hands. Jade and Roxy were chatting idly. Jade spoke first. My father said when I'm a bit older, he'll send me to town to work in a factory. Then I'll be free. Roxy interjected. My father said he'd sell me next year. I've thought about it too. Once I'm married, I'll definitely work hard. People have hearts of flesh, right? If I'm diligent, my in-laws will treat me well, right? She said the last part without any confidence, turning to ask us. Jade nodded continuously as if encouraging her, but I didn't answer, just stared intently towards the living room. I couldn't hear clearly what those men were discussing, but someone standing outside the window was looking at us, and another was gesticulating, making gestures like a pregnant woman with a big belly. Mocking laughter filled the room, spilling out into the yard. At this moment, my expression was terribly grim. Dale, why aren't you saying anything? Jade nudged my shoulder lightly. Roxy chimed in. Yeah, say something to cheer us up, even if it's just for a moment. I remained silent, a few images flashing in my mind. Crack! Scenes of slowly severing tendons, then iron cages with the stinking men of the village, bellies swollen, squatting inside. Sisters, if you 2 had money, a lot of money, what would you do? I suddenly asked. The question startled both of them. Dale, don't joke. Yeah, if we had money, I'd go crazy. They talked back and forth. Just then my father came out. You 3 damn girls, what are you jumping around for? Go stew the goose now, those men are hungry. My father yelled, his hand fondling Roxy. Roxy dared not resist and immediately, with Jade, carried the iron pan towards the kitchen. You still not going? My father stared at me. His gaze now was different. There was no paternal affection, only lust. In truth, my gaze at him was also different. Looking at him now was like looking at the chickens, sheep, and pigs in the village. In the kitchen, the stewing goose pot was boiling furiously. Jade and Roxy squatted in front of the stove, still dreaming fanciful dreams. Jade, if I had money, I'd cook 2 bowls of braised pork every meal. Eat one, pour one away. Roxy also smiled happily. If I had money, I'd buy a tricycle, drive it to work in the fields, no more suffering from sun and rain. Meanwhile, I secretly reached into my pocket, pouring the packet of medicine into the pot. The secret remedy taken from Grandma 3's house. She said this was the latest formula, with even stronger medicinal power. How strong? She herself wasn't sure. But wasn't that exactly what I wanted most? Soon, the meal was cooked. The 3 of us carried the entire meal to the main house. According to village custom, women and girls were absolutely not allowed to sit at the table. We had to serve from under the table, waiting for the men to eat their fill before we could pick at the leftovers to ease our hunger. Unexpectedly, today was different. Dale, all 3 of you come sit at the table, my father commanded. Looking around the large round table in the house, besides the 8 stinking men, 3 empty seats were arranged, not next to each other, but interspersed among the men. At this moment, all of them were grinning cunningly, looking at us. Jade and Roxy's faces were blank. The men even feared we might run away. Some had already quickly blocked the door. Sit, they chorused, especially Roxy's father, his face stern as money, yelling, Roxy, you set an example, hurry up. Roxy, terrified, could only nervously pull at her skirt, hesitating for a moment before obeying. The 3 of us took our seats one by one. The man sitting next to Roxy immediately started to grope her, and my uncle, sitting next to Jade, opened his mouth wide and embraced her. Little girl, how old are you? I'm old and can't remember. That was hardly a gesture of an elder. My father at this moment growled a reminder. What's the rush? Just eat your fill first. If you're not full, where will you get the strength to play later? That's right, heh heh. Still Fatty too, who understands things best. The others also chimed in. Did these rural men even know what propriety was? The meal was full of bizarre scenes. Someone picked their teeth with chopsticks, another propped their feet on the chair, and still another smacked their lips loudly. Most notably, the old man sitting next to me, named Old Cripple, was famous for being a long-time bachelor. The reason he couldn't get a wife, according to the village, was simply poverty. At this moment, as he ate, he ceaselessly eyed me from head to toe. Suddenly, he put down his bowl and chopsticks. I'm full. That statement made the room instantly quiet. My father snorted at him. Damn Cripple, full after just that little bit? Old Cripple chuckled, ignoring my father, and even hobbled towards me. Dale, you don't need to eat anymore either. I have a toy, let's go find a private place. I'll take you to play, okay? I frowned, looking at him coldly. Those stinking men suddenly understood something, giggling in agreement. Old Cripple reached out to pull me away, but my father suddenly remembered something. Damn Cripple, take this with you. Later, make Dale drink it first. My father pulled out a tea mug, filled with a dark liquid. Dale, this is good tea. Listen to your father. Drink it all, my child. At that moment, countless fragmented memories flashed in my mind. Every year, my father forced my mother to drink this. Before, I didn't understand, but now it was clear. All right, I replied, taking it handily. So I left with Old Cripple, heading to a small storage shed, a place where my family piled up odds and ends. I knew this place like the back of my hand, knowing exactly where everything was. As soon as we entered, Old Cripple closed the door. He was as eager as a monkey, panting as he took off his clothes. Dale, hurry up, don't make me use force. Old Cripple urged, but at this moment I was squatting in front of an old-fashioned cabinet in the corner, opening it. Inside were tools, hose, axes, and even a saw. I quietly considered which one to choose. Old Cripple limped closer. He had lost all patience, grabbing my hair and yanking my head back, pressing me against him. At the same time, I reached into the wooden cabinet. What I chose was a small blowgun hidden in a corner. This item was used to hunt wild animals with poison. My father often took it into the forest. If he saw a wild chicken or stray dog, he'd blow once, and a dart tipped with potent poison said to be cyanide would shoot out. They said it would drop an animal in 3 steps. I gripped it tightly, aimed it straight at Old Cripple's navel, and thrust it in hard. With a asterisk squelch asterisk, blood and fluid splattered everywhere. Old Cripple's face contorted in pain, all his evil intentions vanished. He turned to run, but his nickname, 3-Step Death, was not wrong. Stumbling 3 steps, Old Cripple fell to the ground with an asterisk thud, like a dead pig. His face was red as a boiled crab, his whole body convulsing. Those were his final throes. I walked over, looking down coldly at his corpse, then dragged him like a dead dog. In the shed was an unused straw mat. I placed Old Cripple on it, found a torn piece of cloth, and covered him. Then I adjusted my slightly disheveled clothes and left alone. The party over there surely hadn't ended yet, had it? In an instant, the main house had completely transformed. They were no longer eating. My father and uncle teamed up to corner Roxy. Their 4 hands freely groped all over her body. Jade was even more miserable, surrounded by 5 other men on the opposite side who were uttering unspeakable obscenities. Jade, this name is so boring. Exactly. What's Jade for? Wouldn't it be better if Uncle gave you another son? Jade and Roxy struggled with all their might, but it was useless. At this moment, 2 other men also noticed me. They clamored, "Hey, why's the girl back so early? Cripple finished already? That fast, always acting tough, turns out he's a weakling." The 2 split, rushing towards me from 2 sides. I wasn't easily bullied. Bursting with strength, I pushed both of them cleanly towards the dining table. Several plates of food crashed to the floor. Clang! What was that? My father yelled, his face black as the bottom of a pot. My uncle also lamented the loss. Damn it, broke the plates, that's money. I didn't answer, silently observing the men in the house. The medicine must have taken effect. For now, a dark streak appeared on each of their foreheads, a deep black that was hard to discern, yet incredibly eerie. Hurry, go play with these 2 uncles. My father pointed directly at me, commanding. Father, let us go change our clothes first, I said, surprising him. I added coldly, the 3 of us are wearing such ragged clothes. I'll take my 2 friends to change into my nightclothes or underwear. That way, playing games will be more comfortable, won't it? My father burst out laughing delightedly. My daughter truly has a mind, good, very good. He couldn't stop praising me. I quickly pulled Jade and Roxy and ran out to the yard. The 2 girls were now completely broken. Roxy could only sob silently. Jade was like a lost soul, twitching uncontrollably. Run, Jade whispered hoarsely. Where do we run to now? Roxy choked out. To the back mountain, hide in the deep forest. Better to be wolf bait than stay here. But I had already come up with another plan. Follow me into the kitchen. The 2 girls hesitated but finally obeyed me. In the kitchen, a large pot of warm water remained, leftovers from cooking. I led the 2 of them, frantically adding firewood to the stove. The fire blazed fiercely. In an instant, the water in the pot boiled rapidly. Dale, what are you going to do? Roxy repeatedly pressed. Just wait for my signal, I threw back, then went to get 2 buckets. Though not very clean, luckily, they were very large. Pouring all the boiling water from the pot into the 2 buckets, we carried them to the door of the main house. I found a large padlock and firmly locked the door. You're crazy, they'll kill us, Roxy panicked. Jade also tried to dissuade me. I handed each of them a ladle. Just then, a man inside the room noticed us. He staggered to the door. You reek of alcohol, get in here quickly, let Uncle give you a hug and a kiss, he yelled, trying to push the door open, but then he realized something, his face reddening with anger. What the hell are you 3 doing? As he spoke, he raised his foot and kicked the door hard. Crash. The glass in the door shattered, scattering everywhere. He didn't stop, stepping back a few paces, intending to rush in again. Jade and Roxy clung to each other in fear, but I couldn't give this bastard another chance. I scooped out a ladle of steaming boiling water and poured it directly into the doorway. In an instant, the man screamed tragically, clutching his face with both hands, collapsing to the ground from the scalding burn. His pathetic cries drew more people. Pour! I shouted loudly to Jade and Roxy, my hands ceaselessly scooping boiling water, ladle after ladle. Roxy was so scared she could only sob. Jade looked at the scene before her, her expression changing repeatedly. But finally, she gritted her teeth, a fierce look appeared on her face, and she joined me. And so, ladle after ladle of boiling water was poured into the room. Tragic screams echoed without end. Not long after, the medicine had fully taken effect. They writhed on the floor, clutching their bellies. What is this? My belly's swelling up? It hurts so much, like something squirming inside me. In a flash, night fell. 7 men, including my father and uncle, were all confined in individual cages. Right in the backyard, where the old pigsty once stood, now sat 7 iron cages, all large dog cages. The men lay crumpled at the bottom of the cages, and their bellies, strangely, were significantly swollen. At first glance, each looked like they had a huge beer belly. Roxy only dared to stand far away, watching them with a cold, fearful gaze, but Jade was different. Like a madwoman, she picked up stones and threw them relentlessly at them, cursing without end. Then she even searched for 7 pairs of split-crotch pants and made the men wear them. Good girl, please don't make me wear these, it's cold. One man coaxed and pleaded. Jade shrieked heartbreakingly, You know cold? Roxy's worn them for over 10 years, wasn't she cold? At this moment, I quietly went to the small house. My face drenched in tears, I knelt before my mother's bed. Thinking back, she had just given birth that day, yet no one cared for her all day, no hot meal, no personal hygiene. I brought a basin of warm water, gently wiping her body. My mother looked at me, only able to smile foolishly. Even in her dementia, she recognized me. Ling, ling, ling. My tears immediately flowed like a spring. Father called me Dale, but on the day I was born, Mother named me Ling Ling. Because when I was born, I was so clever and lovely. Mother, drink, the chicken soup just finished cooking. I spoon-fed her, mouthful by mouthful. I feared she wouldn't understand, so I kept repeating in her ear, Mother, wait for me. When I earn money, I'll take you to get cured, you'll definitely get better. My mother only knew how to smile foolishly. Many times I brought the spoon of soup to her mouth, only for her to unconsciously spit it out. I covered my mouth tightly, choking back sobs. 7 days passed in a flash. I locked the house gate, pasting a large sign outside that read, Gone away for work. Throughout this time, the families of the men kept calling, but I had a method. I took a sharpened bamboo pole, poked it through the cage bars, aiming at their necks. Anyone who dared to speak improperly on the phone would face clear consequences. And so, eventually, all 7 men collectively went away for work as a group. Of course, during this time, their bellies inflated as if blown up. My father was even more terrifying. One night, he constantly complained of suffering. When we rushed over, he opened his mouth wide and coughed up a perfectly round lump of flesh. It was about the size of a small bowl, nestled in a puddle of cloudy gastric fluid. Jade and Roxy were both horrified, backing away, but I was already too used to this sight. At this moment, my father was utterly weak. Especially after giving birth to this lump of flesh, his belly caved in significantly, looking like a starved person, just skin and bones. He weakly begged me to cook him some nourishing food. But how had he treated my mother? How could I forget? I ignored him, took the iron basin to hold the small lump of flesh, and washed it clean. There were no facial features on the lump, but I could feel its warmth and a pulse-like beat. I suddenly remembered Grandma Three's words. They were her dying words. This kind of living jade born from men is even better than from women. Simply put, it's due to vitality and blood. Men have abundant vitality and blood, so nourishing the living jade is naturally more potent. I wasn't an expert in medicine, so I had to temporarily trust her words. I found a glass jar, steeped the lump of flesh in wine, then called the wealthy merchant. The phone rang for a long time before connecting. The voice on the other end said, "Hello, uncle." Those two words made my head buzz. Seeing my silence, he asked again, "Hello, uncle." He spoke with a lisp, distorting child to sound like uncle, but it was this very tone that felt like a knife cutting into my heart. My mother was bought. From a young age, she told me that the person who sold her was a man with a lisp. I thought to myself, wealthy merchant, my foot. He's clearly the same human trafficker from back then. He's truly heartless, daring to do any kind of business. It was clear he made money from dirty dealings, buying living jade and reselling it for profit. Seeing me still silent, he cursed loudly, intending to hang up. "Uncle," I spoke up, "I'm selling living jade." Almost immediately, his voice became as excited as if possessed. "How many pieces and how much do they weigh? Currently, there's one piece born from a man. Are you buying, uncle?" My answer made him even more ecstatic. We set the time and place for the transaction, the Bak Hazai Reservoir not far from my house. "Don't worry, child, I'll be there on time," he promised with a lisp, one after another, then hung up. I took Roxy to the meeting point at midnight. Jade stayed at home. The reason I chose this was because I was afraid Roxy couldn't watch 7 men by herself. As for Jade, I completely trusted her. Once, at my uncle's instigation, 7 men rebelled. They violently shook their iron cages, slapped their swollen bellies, and yelled loudly. But Jade, with just one move, quelled them, a large bottle of weed killer. Jade snarled, yelling in their faces, "Anyone who doesn't behave, I'll use this." The villagers all understood this. Once exposed, if not treated in time, their entire skin and flesh would rot away. I knew Jade had completely changed. She was no longer a girl to be manipulated as people pleased. So at midnight, Roxy and I squatted by the reservoir dam, the moon high, the wind strong. Suddenly, blinding headlights appeared from afar. A large jeep sped towards us at full throttle, stopping. 2 men jumped out, one short and burly, the other with a goatee. Both were cautious, but when they saw their transaction partners were just 2 young girls, dressed shabbily and poorly, they immediately became disdainful. The short man waved and asked in a crude voice, "Is that you two?" I nodded, but at this moment, Roxy was trembling uncontrollably. I caught sight of this and asked her, "What's wrong?" "Dale, it's him. My father tried to sell me, and the person who came to negotiate the price was this guy. He was very cruel. In the end, he said I was too young to raise me for another year, then deal with it." Roxy must have been traumatized. Speaking of this, she lowered her head again. At this moment, the 2 men also approached. "Where's the living jade?" The short man spoke first. I put down my backpack and took out a glass jar. The 2 men immediately rushed towards it like moths to a flame. Surrounding the glass jar, both pulled out super bright flashlights, examining it repeatedly. I didn't understand this, but I could guess the outcome because both of them smiled greedily. "This quality, wow wow." The short man praised a few words, but then immediately became cautious. "How did you 2 get living jade? Speak up," Goatee threatened. Roxy, frightened, hid behind me, but I calmly replied, "My father gave birth to it." The villagers heard that living jade sells for money, and the men are all desperate now. The short man and Goatee exchanged glances, their faces still suspicious. The short man asked again, "Which village are you from?" "Wild Mountain Cave." As soon as the 3 words were uttered, the 2 men immediately seemed to understand. Goatee's voice was contemptuous. So it's that wretched little corner. Ha, before, they favored sons over daughters, would rather go bankrupt and dig 3 feet of earth to scrape up money to buy a wife. Now the poor men are driven mad, even losing their sense of shame, getting pregnant like women. The short man also chimed in now, laughing loudly, but suddenly he noticed Roxy. His expression changed abruptly. "Look up, you look familiar." Roxy was terrified, pressing her body tightly behind me, but the short man suddenly reached out, grabbing Roxy's chin. He violently lifted her face. This time, he fully recognized her. "Haven't seen you in a year, girls really transform?" Wow. Goatee also widened his eyes, adding, "Honestly, this girl is quite attractive." I immediately intervened, striking the short man's hand hard with enough force to make him stagger. I said lazily, pointing at the glass jar, "This is the main business, buying or not." "Of course buying." He handed over the money and I took the goods. The short man took a travel bag from the jeep. I didn't see inside, but the bag was bulging and heavy. Meanwhile, the short man's eyes never left me and Roxy. "Are you two going back to the village? It's so late, let us take you back." I nodded. Roxy, almost reflexively, shook her head repeatedly. The other two just exchanged glances, smiling cunningly. So Roxy and I sat in the back. The short man drove, pressing hard on the gas pedal. The jeep sped away. All the way, the short man deliberately tried to start a conversation. "You two sisters, your village is actually quite chaotic, mostly illiterate, uneducated, uncivilized, why not?" He hesitated. "You two come with us." Goatee chimed in. "We'll take you to the city, live in tall buildings, eat well and dress well every day, you won't have to do anything." Then he chuckled and added, "Although we already have families, rest assured, the money in our pockets is enough to support you two indefinitely." To sway us, they changed the subject. "Goatee, the men in your village are really cruel. Once, we sold a female student there. She couldn't give birth to a son, making her husband furious." "What happened?" the short man interjected. "I advised the husband, and he not only listened but even innovated, beating her into a lifelong stupor." The two mentioned this as if it were a joke, but my face turned cold, and I clenched my hands until they bled because the person they were talking about was my mother. Then they mentioned Grandma 3. The short man, "Lately, some tycoons have changed their health regimen to fertilize duck eggs. I just got a strange remedy and sent it to Grandma 3 to research." Goatee added, "The prescription was originally flawed, but who knew Grandma 3 would figure it out after all that tinkering?" The two laughed gleefully again. I subtly lifted my head, observing them from behind, thinking to myself, so these are the two beasts. Even though the men in the village were evil, compared to these two, they were mere small fry. My face was calm, but I secretly took out 2 grass ropes, not the kind sold in the market, but woven by our own hands, extremely strong. I gave Roxy one, whispering a few words in her ear. After hearing, Roxy trembled, looking at me pleadingly. "Can't we not do it?" I shook my head. Suddenly, I yelled, "Stop the car!" The short man, not understanding what was happening, quickly slammed on the brakes. At that very moment, I shouted, "Roxy!" I acted first, looping the grass rope through the driver's seat, tightly wrapping it around the short man's neck. I yanked it hard backward. He turned red and purple, gasping for breath immediately. Roxy was half a beat slow. "Roxy, Roxy!" I yelled. On the other side, Goatee was reaching for a weapon. Roxy was cornered. She let out a desperate scream, and then everything happened. A moment later, my side was quiet, but Roxy was still tightening the rope. Goatee, his face bruised purple, had been dead for a long time, but Roxy had gone berserk. On her face, there was no longer fear, only raging malice. A few days later, late at night, my house suddenly caught fire fiercely. The cruel flames devoured everything, leaving it unrecognizable. When the villagers rushed to put out the fire, they only found 8 charred male bodies in the ashes. Villagers rumored that my mother and I had also died in the fire, but our bodies were completely incinerated into dust. As for Roxy and Jade, they disappeared without a trace. Everyone speculated wildly. The two must have encountered wild wolves while chopping firewood behind the mountain. 3 months passed in a flash. One late night, 3 men in windbreakers stood silently in a deserted corner of the city's outskirts, as if waiting for someone. Before long, 2 bright headlights pierced the night. A luxurious Mercedes slowly stopped in front of them, and a bald man stepped out. "Do you want to buy women?" he asked directly. The 3 men immediately crowded around. The leader, with a hoarse voice, replied something. The bald man chuckled blandly. First, my goods are all top quality, don't even dream of bargaining. Don't worry, money is not an issue. The leader nodded, intentionally opening the bulging travel bag. The bald man's face showed satisfaction. Get in the car, let's discuss it in more detail. So, they all piled into the Mercedes. But in that very instant, the two men in the back row pulled out lengths of rope. Meanwhile, the one in the passenger seat pulled out a short-handled firewood axe. A horrifying scream echoed, then died out. The bald man's head slumped, his hand and foot tendons were severed, and he was no longer breathing. The three killers were unfazed, for they were not men at all, but merely three women in disguise. I sat in the passenger seat, lighting a cigarette, taking a long drag, then passed it to the back. One by one, they inhaled the smoke, not missing anyone. Roxy in the back row coughed violently, grumbling, "What's so great about this stuff?" Jade, sitting next to her, immediately retorted, "Men can smoke it, why can't I?" And so we passed the cigarette around a few more times. I broke the silence. "Let's rest for a few days, then find our next target." Both nodded in agreement. Jade suggested, "While we're at it, let's visit Mother." Roxy smiled brightly. "Mother's less confused these days." The Mercedes started up again. I took the wheel. Hauling the bald man's corpse into the car, along with Jade and Roxy, we sped into the night. The wheels rolled steadily, and the car vanished into the vast night.